few more people some time to come in. I hope everyone had an awesome weekend. As our children are starting their second week of school, I just really believe that this topic is important, and there are some other pieces that, other variables that I want us to consider today as we consider the issue of bullying. So I want to give some people some time to come in. Hope the first week of school was awesome. Parents, teachers, hope you're having had an awesome transition into the school year as well. Good morning to everyone who's coming in. Good morning, Kendrick, Miss Karen. Good morning. So I got a couple people. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to talk about this is a continuation again of the topic of bullying that we discussed last week. And one of the things that I want us to consider is two pieces that we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on the effects of bullying on the victim, and we're also going to address some of the issues that may be going on with the person who is the bully, who is the identified bully. This topic is very important because I believe that a lot of the unrest in schools and a lot of the things that we've seen happen in our schools with regard to like school shootings, some of those things possibly could have been prevented had we identified the needs of the bully. Often we focus on the victim, not to minimize the victim's experience in any way, but often we focus on the needs of the victim versus trying to address what's going on with the person who is the identified bully. So we're going to address that piece today. I never want to see another Columbine. I never want to see another, school shooting. No more Virginia Tech. No more things like that. We don't need that again. So we're going to take a look at some of the pieces that affect both the victim and the person who's identified as the bully. So I want to address, and some of this information will be coming from the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. So if you want to go on that website and look at some more information, I do strongly encourage you to do that. So that website again is the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. So the effects of bullying on the victim, there are several factors, but we won't go into all of them. I'm going to highlight a few. You might start seeing educationally, and this is something that parents and teachers can pay attention to. If that child is not completing classwork, if they're not doing well with their academics, parents, you can attest to seeing sometimes changes in your child's work ethic at home. They're not really interested in doing their homework. They're not really invested in their schoolwork. So that's some changes that you can look for at home. And then they just start doing... They may be typically a child who does well academically, and then for some reason they just go on this landslide of not doing well academically. You may want to check and see if something's going on with them at school, if they are possibly being bullied. Mentally, bullying can have a strong effect long term. It can be traumatic to be bullied. Being bullied can be a traumatic event, and it's something that impacts the self-esteem of the person that's being bullied. They may feel, why am I the person that they chose? What is it about me that makes people think that they can bully me? What is it so bad about me? So it starts to impact their self-esteem. They start feeling bad sometimes about who they are as a person, because it's like, what is it that's causing people to feel like there must be some flaw about me that causes people to feel like they can bully me, or they can pick on me. So emotionally and mentally, there are some pieces that can be addressed there. Emotionally, you may start to see them withdrawing from other people, withdrawing from their family, withdrawing from their friends, not really wanting to go outside and play, not wanting to participate in group activities at school, not really wanting to be a part of things. And physically, bullying impacts a person physically, depending on the nature of the attack. It can be severe. Some people have had near-death experiences due to bullying. So that can be traumatic for the victim. One of the things, now kind of switching gears a little bit with regard to this topic, is addressing the needs of the bully. one of the things that typically has happened with those who have been bullied, sometimes they may become bullies themselves, because it just impacts them in such a way that that causes them to feel like, well, if I'm going to be able to survive, if I'm going to be able to do what I need to do personally, I got to make sure I protect myself at all costs. So if you're bothering me, if I think you're bothering me, I'm going to attack you first. So being bullied can actually be a trigger for becoming a bully. Another issue that sometimes bullies have are insecurities about who they are, about themselves, about their abilities, whether that's socially, whether that's academically, whether it's in any other way. Sometimes bullies themselves have insecurities about who they are. So one of the things that I wanted to address with regard to this piece, and the sad part is that the people that really need to be watching this probably are not the people that are watching. It's those of us who are actually trying to build our children up and teach them how to interact well with other people, how to stand up for themselves, be assertive without being a bully. The sad part is the people that really need to see this may not be watching it, because one of the things that I've had the opportunity to see in working with the in-home population is that a lot of the problematic behaviors that I saw, such as being physically or verbally aggressive, when you went to the home and you worked in the home with the parents, you got to be able to see where the children were getting their behaviors from. And a lot of times the parents were not willing to address their own issues that were impacting the child's behaviors, but instead only wanted the child to be changed. They only wanted the child's behaviors to be changed. But that is not realistic. That is not productive. If you're wanting a child's behaviors to change, you have to make sure you address personally your issues that you have going on, so that you can then positively impact the behaviors of your child. So I am encouraging this, that we share this, because we never know who's going to get to see it, who's going to get to have an understanding or a better revelation about how they need to change things as a result of us sharing about this topic. I want to make sure, though, that we really address that, the building of the self-esteem in a child, that's so important as it relates to this topic, because if the child is engaging in bullying behaviors, if the child is engaging in these types of behaviors against another person, what is it that's causing them to do that? Do they not feel well about who they are? Do they not feel well about their abilities? And as parents, as teachers, as mentors, as family, it's our job as the community to help build our children's self-esteem. It's our job as a community to help them identify those things about themselves that are good. Often we focus on the bad, and sometimes I'm of the belief that sometimes this bullying is coming from people being told that they're bad, people being told that there's nothing, they don't have anything good to offer. So when you constantly teach a child that there are things about them that are bad, and that's the emphasis with regard to who they are and what they do or what they have the ability to do, then they're probably less likely to think well of themselves. So if they don't think well of themselves, they're not going to think well of anybody else. They're not going to consider healthy boundaries when it comes to maybe attacking another person. So we have to think about how are we empowering our children? How are we finding those things inside of them to help build them? What are gifts and talents that you have? What are some things that you do well? Let's identify those things to help you feel well about who you are, so that you don't engage in these types of behaviors toward someone else. So I want us to be very considerate of the fact that it's our job to upbuild. And if we don't have it, then we need to identify it for ourselves first, to prevent these bullying instances. Everything is connected. Everything is intertwined. So one thing naturally affects another.